Welcome to the God Stack. It's another day, it's another session. My name is
Welcome,
Breno.
guys.
Hello, everyone. My name is Breno. This one is Bruno. Hello, Bruno. Welcome
Hello,
to
guys.
this last
How are you
session.
today?
Yeah. So, what are we going to do today? Keeping going on with what we were doing since the last session. Last session we worked with Docker, so I tried to explain the best I could about the Docker, how to use it for a API, to how to create all the strategy to do some scripts, some bash scripts to improve all the repository. One of the things that I didn't do last time, it was to give you guys the repository that we were working with. So I'm just going to put it into the chat. Let's do that. There we go. So if anyone wants to get the code, we are updating that we are doing that, and every end of session I commit things there, and you can just access all of that. So I believe that the first thing that we should talk about, it's the there is a heavily discussion if you are going to start a API. Are you going to use an ORM, or are you going to use a query builder, and what's the difference, and which one is the one you're going to choose, and what do you expect of that? Which one's the better for you, Bruno, and why do you like it, and so what do you like
Um,
to use?
I think the more layers we add in the system, more performance we lost. So I think I like to remove the more layers I can. So, but it still have some tools to work with. So I like more, uh, which is the name? I forget about
RAM
the,
or query builder?
yes, the query builder.
Yeah. Well, I have the same opinion, but I believe that if we were talking about an API, we need to have a better and heavily discussion.
Yeah.
So um, one of there is some concepts around the internet that's getting really famous, and one of them is the clean code and the good engineering, domain driven designing, and all that. If we use an RM to do that, the good sides of that, it's better for the developer, because everything's gonna be easier for you. Everything's gonna be there. You have all the functions already. Then you don't need to think about the queries. So you actually don't need to think too much about the database and all the data you have. The downside of an ORM, takes too much control of your application, and that's not, from my point of view, that's not that good, because I like to be free doing software, and I like to do the best as I can and get the best as I can. And most of the companies I've worked with, when you are working with a big one, or some of them a small one, you have people that have a good knowledge about the database. So they know how to do better SQLs to run into the database. So when we say all these things, and as we are working with GraphQL, we already have a domain explaining all the data to the system, to the API, to the front ends, and whatever you have. So you already have the GraphQL to do that for you. So I believe, from my point of view, that's a query builder. It's better. Okay, but again, if you are alone and you are starting by yourself and you don't feel that you are really secure with all of that, you can use an ORM. But remember that you will be kind of a slave of that. So it's necessary to do all in the way that the ORM thinks that you need to do your software. The software is not going to be done in the way that you think that's going to be done. So for example, there are some of them like type ORM that it needs to do injectables, and now you need to work with classes. And I know that's not exactly necessary, but if you don't do that, you're not getting the best of it. If you're not getting the best of it, why are you using it? So this is the reason that in the end of the day, and in the projects I like to work with, I like to use query builders. And today we are going to use a query builder to do all the software that we are going to create. Okay. So Talkship, show me the code, just like Linus said. In the last session, we did all the Docker Compose things, so I will already do that. So I will just clean everything. Oh, this is one of the things that I didn't said in the last session. I have this command that's called the clean. How did I do that? Let me just make it bigger, so I believe it's better now in the live. 3, 2, 1. Yes, it's better in the live. So there is a folder, and this folder will work in the Mac OS, and it will work on Linux. So if you're using Mac OS or Linux, you can do that. I don't know if it's possible in Windows, because Windows has a lot of different terminals. So you have Git Bash, Power Bash, and all of that. So I don't actually know, because for a long time I don't work with Windows, more than 20 years.
Yeah,
But
I think you need to use the Git Bash to run it.
yeah, I've just heard. So there is some folder called user local bin. Inside this folder, everything that you put in here can be a command into the terminal. So I'm sorry, it's VI. I'm just going to do that. And I've created this command, the clean. Let me just put my password. There you go. So the command, it's a real simple one. I just do docker stop, and I pass all the IDs to docker stop. So it's going to stop everything. And then I do the remove. So I'm going to list all the IDs from the Docker, and then I'm going to remove that. So this is my command. You can do that. You can create any name you like to. I like to use the clean. But then you need to do like that. Sudo chmod, and then +x, and then the file you need. Local bin, there you go. Then it's gonna be executable. This works in Mac as well. So with just these 2 steps, you can create any command, and instead of typing everything, you just type one command and it's gonna run the other one. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do the clean. So I'm going to clean everything, because I work it every day, and there is a lot of things that's still running. And then I'm just going to do the Docker compose app, right? So it's cleaned everything. Oh, okay, I need to go inside the API. If I run the clean now, it's going to produce an error, because everything is already clean. So it's going to say, hey, I've already cleaned everything, so I'm just going to run docker compose app, and there we go. Let's check if it's working. Let's get this here, and then let's just copy this, copy, and then let's paste it here. I'm using the production one because the last thing I did in the session, I showed you the how would it be in production, and then it was using the HTTPS. I'm just going to remove both of this file, and then I'm just going to use the dev install, and it's going to do everything for me that's necessary to work with development. Okay, so let's do the API, this, but without HTTPS, just API, and reload. It's this one. Let's copy and paste. Why it's not working? Let me check this. This is alright. Let's check this. I believe I didn't do the clean thing, so it's a cache to the last one. Docker compose app. There we go. It's not. Volumes API. HTTP port. HTTP ports 80. What I'm missing? The environment, it's development, and building context, API local TGS. So what's the difference between this one and this one? Well, I have the HTTPS set, that's it. Let's check the, we can actually check the traffic to see if it's all working. Let's get this, and there we go, it is. Why can't you? HTTPS. It was forcing the HTTPS because I've accessed that before, and the cache was still there, doing all of that. Okay, so it's working, everything, it's working, it's fine. So what we need to do, the first thing that we need to do, the query builder I'm going to use, it is this one, it's the Next.js, okay, Next.js, right? Why I'm going to use this one? Again, we already have this conversation, but as you can see, you can install it just doing npm install. I'm not using npm, right? I'm using nginx. So what I'm going to do, and as I'm using Docker, I'm not going to just go in this folder and do something like yarn and add and next. Why I'm not going to do that? Because again, we have a Docker doing everything for us. And as we have a Docker, we have a container, that's a machine, and everything that I need is inside of there. So I have the proper version of Node.js, I have the proper version of yarn and everything. So instead of running yarn outside the container, I'm going to do that inside the container. So how I'm going to do that? I'm just going to run docker execute exec. I need to be interactive. This means that I can do things and receive the callbacks of the things I'm doing, and I'm going to use the terminal. So it's gonna be an interactive terminal. Okay. This is the IT. And then I need to pass or the ID or the container name. Okay, I'm just going to use the container name to do that. And now you have two different options. Or you invoke the bash to do that. You can just do bash and then you go inside the container terminal. But if you don't want to do that because you just want to run a command, you can just run the command directly. So I'm going to do yarn add next, right? Let's just check if it's next. Yes, it's next. So I'm just going to add this. And there we go. This yarn install, it's not running in my computer. This yarn install is running in the container inside Docker. So this way, I'm sure that everything that's running here, it's running in the proper version of everything that I want. Okay, this is the reason I do the commands inside the container. Do you get that, Bruno?
Yes, got it.
It's not that.
Not that difficult.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Depends on
Yes,
how you
of
have
course.
the understanding of all the things, but
Yes.
we can say that's kind of simple. And as
And
you can
again, if
see,
anyone have a doubt,
sorry?
you can put it. And again, if anyone have a doubt,
Yeah,
you can put in the chat.
exactly. You can just go to the Discord, and if you even want to, you can go online with us and ask us anything. We will help you through that. But again, so I have the Next.js installed here, all right? But that's not enough because the Next.js is just a query builder. Now you need the access to the database. So you need a library to help you to connect to a database. And now depends what kind of database do you want to use. So if you want to use Postgres, you're going to use the PG. If you use SQLite, MySQL, Oracle, and Microsoft SQL, so you can choose any of these. I'm going to use Postgres for this specific project. We are going to use Postgres. So I just need to install PG. So I'm going to run exactly the same command, but instead of next, I'm going to use Postgres. Again, Docker execute something for me, and it's gonna be interactive and with the terminal active. And so this is the IT. Then you pass the ID of the container or the container name. I'm going to use the container name, and then the commands you want to do. This time, instead of doing that, I'm going to use, I'm going to use the bash. Okay, there we go. Now everything that I'm typing here, it's inside the container. So I'm just going to do yarn add and pg. There you go. You have all the things being installed there. And as it is interactive, I will go back to the same bash. If I want to go out, you just type exit and there you go. You're not inside of that anymore. All right. And as we have a volume, if you remember the last session that we've created all the Docker, as we have a volume here, that is this one, so everything that we do in this folder, it will be reflected in the folder inside, and it's vice versa. If I do something inside the container, everything will be reflected outside the container, and this is the reason I've used the volumes, right? If you have any doubt, just go to the last session. We have the videos there, and we will be there will be all the answers that you are looking for. Welcome to everyone that's coming to this stream. I see that there is 14 people. It's a lot of people there. So everyone, welcome. Welcome Guy. Welcome Definity Optimist. Welcome to the stream. So we have the Next.js and the Postgres already here. So Debs, hello, Deborah's here as well. Hello, Deborah. We are in the bash. We are in the bash here, and the next thing that we want to do, we want to initiate a file for the next. Okay, so what you need to do is to run a command where it's in the manual. There is a next init command. Initializing the library. Did they remove it? I believe they didn't. But what were you gonna do? Do you remember that we have the registry? So this is the registry. We used these in the last session. We created all of these, and when we run these, when we create, we have the recipe for this machine. We have this command being run. This means that I'm installing Next globally. This means that inside the container, I have Next available. There we go. I have Next available. So if I just type in the terminal Next, it will give me all the commands, and probably I will have a init here. There we go. I have init. Okay. So what I'm going to do, Next init. All right. And there we go. It creates a file for me. That is this one with all the well, not all the possibilities, but with some of them. There is just a little problem. When you do anything inside the container, as Docker is running as a root in your machine, this means that the files that's created outside ls-la, the owner of that, where's the file? Docker, where is it? Next file, here it is. So the file will be owned by the root. So you need to do sudo shown, that's change owner, and then I'm going to use my my user to the next file, and now I can change the things inside the file. All right, so there you go. I can save the file. So if you have any problem about that, it's just because you have this problem. Okay, so we have a lot of we have a lot of.
I have a doubt, Brandon.
Yeah.
And what about we create since the folder is reflected by the container?
Yeah.
Why we don't just create outside the container?
Because
could we do that?
Yes, we could do that, but the problem is, for example, Node version. This is outside my container. My Node version is 14.6.1, all right? And if I go inside the container, well, maybe it's gonna be the same because we did this, yeah. But it could be that locally in my machine, the Node version that I'm using, it's the version 8, for example, or the version 10. So if I run some commands, I will probably have problems with that. So it's just because when you create something using Next or using Yarn Edge, it takes into consideration the version of the Node.js you've got in that moment. So as we are using Docker, I will be sure that the version is the one I want to.
The command will run everything and build everything with the version that we have in the machine, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Got it.
And so if I do that inside the container, the version that if you takes into consideration, it will be the one that it's there, installed there. So this is the reason I'm just making sure that everything works properly. Okay.
Nice.
Nice. Well, what I'm going to do here, the first thing I'm going to change, I'm going to change the extension of this file. We are going to use CGS. And now you asking me, why do you do that? Well, Next.js, it didn't update it yet, so they are not using modules yet, and we are using modules, just like we did here. So the backend that we are doing, it's using modules. Okay. Said that, every time I run anything, I need to run like a module. Okay. As I'm doing in the package.json with type modules, when inside the source folder, all my files can keep the .js and everything's gonna run. But Next.js, it's not part of my application. So Next.js is a library that runs into the CLI. So I need that everything that's created, it's created as a CGS, because it's gonna be interpreted into my CLI as a JavaScript module. So this is the only thing that I need to change. So I'm just going to do that in order to work. Okay, and the development mode, I'm just going to change it a little bit, not too much, actually a lot, but there we go. What I'm going to do, when we are in development mode, the client will be Postgres, and this is the connections. Okay, so if I'm using environment variables for these connections, I need to do that. In order to do the connection, I need a database. So we are going to do that in the Docker in a moment. This is the database configurations. I don't know exactly all this information, but it's about all the pool of connections you get to the database. And then the migrations. Where are the migration files? We will talk about that in a minute. Okay, so this is gonna be all the table names, and this is the folder. So I need to create a folder here called migrations. So let's do that. Migrations. There we go. And inside of these folders, I know that all my migrations will be running there. And use new as default through, so every time something it's not properly setted, it's gonna use the new as default. All right. So, and I'm going to do the same thing for production. It's gonna be exactly the same configuration because we are using all the standards that's needed, so we don't need to do anything differently. The production and development server is going to be exactly the same. I just forgetting this thing. There we go. Okay, so we have this, and now what we need, it's a Postgres. If you don't have Postgres in your machine, it's not a problem, because you can just use Docker to do that for you. Okay, so let me show you how we're gonna do that. We are just going to get these. No, this one. I have here the database. There we go. Okay. We are going to edit our local Docker Compose. Okay. So I have the services here. I already have Traffic, that's our reverse proxy, and we have the API. What we're gonna do here, we're gonna add a database. Let's go back. Yeah, there we go. So we already know all these things because we get like 2 hours explaining everything for you. But again, this is my service name. This is my container name. This is the container of the service. The image that's going to get, it's the Postgres. I'm going to get the version 12. We need a volume to make it persistent. So if I don't use this volume, this means that when I do the Docker compose down, when I do my Docker compose down, my database, I will lost everything, and I will lost all the information that I have. In order to keep it persistent, this means that I do Docker compose down, Docker compose up again. So I need to create a volume. And if I'm going to do that, I need to add this to the git ignore. Okay, so it's gonna be ignored. I'm not going to push that into my repository. Okay, the port that will be available will be this one. So I'm going to use the port 5432. It's standard for Postgres. And environment. When the environment variables that we're going to pass to the database is going to be Postgres DB. So it's going to be, here we have the DB name, the DB username, and the DB password. So we need all this information into the environment variables. So let's just create a comment here called database. Okay. And let's get all the variables we have, and let's just put it here with an equal, and then we will decide. So it's going to be user, and the last one it's pass. Nice. So DB pass. For the local environment, I'm going to get the pg.local.tgs.com. The database name, it's gonna be the God stack. Perfect. The user, it's Postgres. And the password, you can decide any password you want. If we are doing that locally, you can choose any password, but if you go live into production, please create a real strong password. Well, as we are just going to do that locally, I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's locally, it's perfect fine to do that locally, not into production. So let's save it. Okay, I'm just going to paste it here. I'm just going to paste it into the production one, but into the production one, instead of doing that, I'm going to do db pass here, because somebody needs to do that. And into production, you may be not going to have the database inside a container. You will just buy any database at Google or at Amazon.
So we can take the opportunity to change the environment to production.
Sorry?
The first line, it's development.
Oh, yeah.
Change the production.
Perfect. Production.
Nice.
So now we have everything set here, and we have all this. We have all this information. I can go back to this. This is properly setted. I'm just going to copy everything and put into my Docker Compose file. Okay, and then Control C. Let's stop the container, the clean, and Docker Compose app, and let's see what happens. Cleaning everything, and the database, it's up and running. There is a problem. There is a problem that we didn't saw here. What's the problem? Imagine that when you do Docker Compose app, both the database and the API, it's going to go up at the same time. So it's going to be concurrent, okay? But there is a problem, because if the API is faster than the database to go up, this means that when you try to run the migration, the database is not going to be there. So the API needs the database. So I need to make the API wait for the database. So how can we do that? How can we do that? I will get a script. Okay, this script is called wait for it. Let's paste it here. Paste. There we go, but inside the API, please. Nice. There we go. So I have this bash script. Where did I find that? I'm not the one that did that. It's in the, if you go to the Google, it do wait for it script. There we go. So you can download it from here. Okay, it's a bash script that people use it for a very long time. And what does it do? Instead of running this command, okay, instead of just going directly into my assemble, what I'm going to do, let's copy it here. What I'm going to do is that. So let's just remove this for you to understand what's going on here. So my command now, it's gonna be this one. So it's gonna, first of everything, it's gonna run the bash script of wait for it. Okay. The second thing that's going to do, it's going to wait. When you put 0, this means forever. Until the database will be available on this port, and then it's going to run this. Okay, this is how you use the wait for it. So now I'm making the API wait for the database before it starts everything. So let's just do that. Okay, let's try it and see if it works. Again, the clean Docker Compose app, and it's gonna clean everything. 3, 2, 1. There you go. Oh, have you saw that? So first, it's going to run all the database. When the database says, "Hey, I'm ready to accept connections," then the API will start. And then the wait for it says, "Hey, now the database is available. You can start your process." So I'm making it goes first one and then the next one. We have a question in the chat. Let's see. If you add this to the API, depends on service. Yeah, it doesn't format properly. Yeah. Okay. I know. Why I don't like to use this one? Because it's straightforward. It's just that this container depends on this container. Now everything it's very simple. So the only thing you need to do is to wait forever for something. So it's similar using this and using the option depends on. Okay, I could do that. But the thing is, when you get more sophisticated, you will need to add more information here. So wait for this one and wait for another one, wait for an service that it's not inside of your containers. So you can wait, for example, for a payment service. So if the payment service is available, and then you can start your container. Right now, it's the same. You can absolutely use the depends on the. It's not depending on the container, but starts. Yeah. I got it. But what I'm saying is, in the way I did here, it's exactly the same. So if you get the depends on and if you get the wait for it, it's the same. But at some point, when it gets more sophisticated, it will be necessary to wait for not containers, but wait for some kind of service. For example, when you are when you are in a CI/CD process and you need to wait for the database that's not inside a container, the database it's outside of it, and you need to instantiate that. So when you start the CI process, the CI process will call some test database that's outside somewhere, and then you need to make your container wait for this that's not a container, it's just a random host and port in somewhere on the internet. If you don't have these, if that's not needed for you, just use depends on. It's perfect, works in the same way. I'm just giving you something that if things goes out of control, you can be more, how can I say, well, you can do more with wait for it than you can do with the depends on. I don't know if I was clear with my answer. Did you understand that, Bruno?
I think this script can handle more complex things. I use uh, more often the depends on, like Albas do,
Yeah.
but I know that wait for it, it's very helpful in some kind of situations.
Yeah. And well, if you wanted to, you can just do the depends on here, and then you can just add the host and port here, and it's gonna be ready to wait for everything. Again, we are all this information is really good. Thank you, Albus, very much for that. Please, if everyone has any kind of information just like that, let's discuss. Again, this channel, it's the God Stack. The God Stack, it's not the code. The God Stack is not about the code, it's not about the language, anything. The God Stack is about the person. So you have backend, frontend, you have full stack, and now we are talking about a God Stack. So a God Stack, it's you in the other side, it's me, it's Bruno, it's every software developer that wants to develop software, okay? So it's about us. So if we have a lot of information, each information that we have is really valuable for us to become the God Stack. HR people, there is no God Stack. So don't try to hire a person that's a God Stack. There is HR people. There is no God Stack. It's just a joke between us, a person that knows it all. Okay. I'm sorry, people. I need to do that because I know that in a month there will be somebody from HR trying to hire a God Stack. So, let's
We don't want senior anymore. We want a
we
God.
don't want seniors. Exactly, we don't want senior free stack. It's senior God stacks. Yeah, don't do that. Okay, it's really difficult to be full stack. So imagine God stack. Okay. So we have the database running, and we have the backend running. We have all the next file. It's properly configured here. So now I'm going to get the process env. Again, if you are working with any kind of database in your system, it can be Python, Java, JavaScript, or whatever. Never set it fixed in the code. Just for example, I could do that. It's good. It could work as well. Local tgs.com. I could do that, but don't do that. Just use environment variables, because every time you make it goes up in different servers, everything is gonna run. Okay, so it's really good idea to use the environment variables. If you're going to Python, Java, Ruby, whatever, use the environment variables for configuration. It's really better. Okay. Okay. Nice. Now what we need to do is to run all the commands to create some. We need to run the commands to create the migrations for me. So what I'm going to do here, again, I'm going to go to the bash, okay, because we are going to create the migrations into this file. Let me just get the command because it's a little bit complicated one. Migrations, directory, migrations, and table. Okay. So if we want to run a migration, you need to run this command. So it's gonna be next migrate make. So I'm going to make a migration file. Okay. We are going to decide which directory this is gonna run, and then the table. Okay. Let's use, for example, user. Okay. Let's create a user. So there you go. Now inside the migrations folder, as you can see, we have a file here. And we have two different functions or methods that's going to be run. The first one is app. What does it mean? When the migration process runs, it's going to execute this one. If you have any problems with these migrations, you need to reverse it, and then you need to reverse it into the down file. Okay, so it's that simple. But I'm not going to do all the process because it's a lot of process. I'm just going to get some migrations that I already have here, and then we are going to talk about it. Let me copy it from here. All right, let's remove it and let's paste it. Okay, there you go. So I have a lot of migrations here, and we will talk about each one of them. Okay, the first one, it's the date trigger. Okay, as I'm using the Postgres, I need to do if we're going to work with databases, one of the things that's really important, it's these guys. Okay, we call it audit information. So every database, every table you have, you need to have this kind of information. It doesn't need to be exactly the same name I'm using here, but it needs to be something just like that. So you need the date that the data was created, the date that the creator was updated, deleted, who created the data, who updated the data, who deleted the data. This is audit, because if anyone wants to know something about the database and wants to try to figure out what happened, you will know the person responsible for the changing in the database. Okay, and one of the things I like to do is to do the automatic update. This means that I don't want my system to be responsible, my API to be responsible for updating the date into the database, the update at into the database. I need that to be automatically. If you want to do that with the Postgres, what you need to do is to create a trigger to do that for you. So what I'm doing here, it's exactly that. So I have a string here that it's a trigger that we're going to create. So this is create or replace function. So every update that we have in our data, it's going to run this update. So it's going to be a trigger. What's going to do, it's going to get a new updated now using now, and it's going to return this new. So it's just returning a new date every time. Okay, and this is just how it works. Okay, and then the drop. How do I drop these timestamps? I just do the drop. So when I do the up, this means that when I start my migration process, I'm just going to create that. So I'm just going to create this function, okay, that calls on update timestamp. It's just a function. And if I want to reverse all the things that I've done, I'm just going to drop it. Okay, there you go. It's going to drop the function that I've created. Okay, and then another thing that I really want to do is to use this extension into the database. It's just like a plugin. I'm using this plugin. What does it do? It creates, automatically create for me the UUID. So every table I've got, instead of this table having a ID that's an integer, most of the tables I know in the world around there, they are using ID. But there is a better way to do that. And as we are using GraphQL, most of the things will be connected. And what we want to do is instead of create an ID that's an integer, we are going to create an UUID, and this is a string. What's an UUID? It's unique, universal identifier. We can call it as well guide. Instead of UID, we can call guide like this. Why? Global, universal, global unique identifier. This means that every single line I've got into my database, it's gonna be unique. I will have an identifier that's unique around all my tables. Because for example, you have the table's user, and then you have the table permissions. The table user will have the ID 1, and the table permissions will have the ID 1 as well. So, well, you're not going to have a lot of conflicts with that. But in a GraphQL, when we are going to connect everything, maybe when you get it, you want the ID 1 to be updated. And if instead of just saying the ID 1, you say the ID that has a unique string, it's going to be better. There is a function, and we'll see that in the front end for the GraphQL, that if you use a unique ID for everything, when you send some information to be updated in the backend, the GraphQL knows that and automatically update the caches for you. So automatically update the caches in the backend, in the front end, so you don't need to do like get the cache that I have and update this information doing like a redux or whatever. You just drop the redux and never think about that again in your life, just because you are doing unique IDs. Okay, so in order to do that in the database, because I want to do that, automatically, I need a plugin to do that for me. So the plugin in the Postgres, it's the PG Crypto. Okay. Got it, Bruno?
Got it. I never used PG Crypto, but I used another one. Let me see. It's called UUIG OSSP, and nice. I use a different migration, but it's for the same purpose.
Okay. I didn't.
But yeah. It's nice to know
to have options.
A different kind of all the options.
Perfect.
I will see that later.
Well, again, you can use this one, or you can just try to get the other one. You can choose it. It's just a plugin, right? Well, for the tables now, they structure. This is just structuring the users, okay, into my database. So I have permissions, roles, and users. Every user can have a role, and a role has a lot of different permissions. Okay, so I can create different permissions. So for example, I can create a permission for somebody to update a user. And then I will connect the permission to the whole. And then I will give the whole to the user, right? This is a little bit what we are doing here. So let's just take a look at this first migration. So this one, what I'm doing, exports app. So into the function of app, when I'm making the database with this information, what I'm going to do is next schema create table. So it's going to create a table called permissions, okay? And this table will result into this variable. And now I can use this variable to execute every column into the table permissions that I will create. So the first thing I'm going to have, it's an UUID, okay? I'm gonna call this UID as AID. It's gonna be unique, it's gonna be primary and not nullable, okay? And the default of that, it's gonna be the gen_random UUID. And this function, I have this function just because the plugin I've installed. Is it good? Nice. So
Very nice, very
I'm
nice.
going to have a code for my permissions, okay, and a description for that, and all the audit information. Every table we're gonna have all these, okay? And then I'm going to say that the index of my table, it's gonna be the ID, and I'm gonna call it index permission ID, okay? What I'm going to do that because when you try to find something into the database as a ID, this table will be hashed and will be faster to do by ID. And if you want to do that by any other thing, for example, if you have a user, maybe not a user, but a person, for example, has a document identification. Well, if we're in Portugal, this is gonna be the NIF. If we are in Brazil, it's gonna be the CPF. Okay. So you can just add that as a index as well, so it's going to be faster to get that information to the database. And then that this it's already created, the database is already created. Then what I'm going to do? I'm going to do that. I'm going to update the trigger. Now that I have the database, I'm going to create a trigger for my permission. Where do I have this function? So let's check that. I have the function and it's doing the require from triggers. So inside the trigger, I've created this function. So I'm going to pass to this function a table name, okay? And it's going to give me back a string. And in this string, it's going to do create a trigger. The trigger name is going to be the name of the table updated at, before update on table, the name of the table for each row. So every row that there is an update in that row, this will be triggered. This means that the function that I've created here, that's the date trigger, it's gonna be triggered every time anything changes into the database. Got it, Bruno?
Got it, man. It's a very good setup because in many times we need to, when we are saving something, we need always to update the timestamp column. So it is very nice to have this automatically.
Yeah. So this is one of the strategies that you can use. I believe that if you're using MySQL, there is an easy way to do that. I believe there is something that you just can pass into the column, and it automatically does that for you into MySQL. But into the Postgres, you have these more sophisticated things to do, but you have all these things already set it for you. If you don't have the access to If you want to know how that was done, it will be here. It's not there yet because I will commit all these, but in the end of the session, it will be there. You can just check and use it if you want to. Okay. Now the roles, for the roles I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Can create an ID. It's going to have names. The table is going to be roles. We have all the audit information here, and then we have the index here, and then it's going to update triggers. And if we have any problems, drop this table and try to start it all over again. And then I have users. The users have ID, and then has a whole ID, name, picture, email, username, password, approval token. You will understand all of this when we start to work with the API again. We have all the audit information here, the index, update trigger, drop table again, all of that. And we will have the tokens because we are going to work with token and refresh token. Okay, we are not just going to use a simple token or API because it's not safe. We will work with token and refresh token with GraphQL. Okay, we will get there, don't worry. So I need a database for that. So this token has a user ID, the refresh token, the date that it will be valid, and all the audit information. And then we have ID, index tokens, and update trigger for every time. Okay, and then we have a table to do the midfield between the whole and the permissions. It's whole permissions table. Okay, you need the whole ID, the permissions ID, all the audit information, and then you need the whole and the permissions. Okay, this both of these is gonna be primary. It's gonna be a composite primary table, and you have the update trigger function to do the same thing that we already know how to do. Drop table, it's gonna drop table and all of that. And now something that I do that it's how can I say, some engineers say that this is good, some engineers say that this is not good, and I need to explain for everyone why I'm doing that. Okay, it's the next one, it's this one, seed out. Okay, so I have a lot of information here. Let me just there is a way to view and toggle word wrap, that's this one. Okay, seed. What is seed? Seed, it's when you get data and put this data inside the database. Okay, because when you start your system for the first time, when it runs for the first time, there is no information to the database. You just have the structure. We just created all the tables, but there is no data inside the tables. Okay, from my point of view, and this is my point of view, when you start a system, some information needs to be there in order to the software works properly. Okay, and that information that's essential for the system to work, I call it the migrations seed. Okay, what does that mean? That without that information, my system will not work properly. One example of that, I need a user into my system that's an admin into my system. If I don't have this user, my system is just empty. So, for example, I just hit on a page that has a user and password, and I want to just log in my system. There is no one to do that. We need the first person to do that. The first person to do that, it's the administrative person. Okay, so this will insert that. Again, this is the way I, Breno, as an engineer, do that. you will find other engineers that will say you should not put the seed into the migration process. You should do the seed after the migration process. Which one is the right one? None. Both has its good sides and its downsides. Okay, so you just need to choose one. Of course, you will find people that say this is really wrong, and in the other side you can say person this is really good. So internet it's full of people that it's really sure about what they are talking about. I like to do that. But if you think that it's wrong, what would you do? Well, you would get all these seeds and put it outside the migration, and you will create a bash script to do that when the system goes up. But when the system goes up, so you need to check if the information is there or not. If it is there, you create the information. If it's not, you don't do that. So there is a lot of things to handle if you don't put it into the migration. If I do that, put into the migration will handle that for me for itself. Is it good or bad? You are the one, you are the software engineering, you are the one that's going to decide if it's good or not. It depends on what you want or not. What do you think about that, Bruno?
As I think I don't think this is wrong, but I never did that. I personally always do a seed. I have a seed folder, and there is a administrator or a system admin seeder there. So every time that my system comes up, this is this will be this will be executed. But as you said, there's some systems, there's other systems, there's some persons, there's some developers, and there's other developers. So we have to make what works for us, right?
Yeah.
I think this is not wrong for me. It's okay. Everything will be created properly. So
Yeah.
just
Well,
maybe
I just
maybe the
wanted
best.
yeah, I just wanted to shrink the amount of work I need to do. So this helped me to do that. But again, you will find people that say that it's not the proper way to do that. And I did that using Promise All because I need all these raw inserts to be done into the database. Okay. But just explaining, it's going to create the administrator, the admin, some regular user, and you're gonna have the admin here. It's gonna be a system user, and I have the migration user as well. And I will show you the database with this information because here it's a little bit messed up and sometimes you can just get a little bit lost. But when we see the database running, I will explain it all these things better. But I have the permissions, so I'm just going to create the permissions of user, user read, user update, user delete, and then I will just connect both of the permission and the role. So I'm going to get the use created and give the permission to the whole administrator, and I'm going to do that all this permission to the administrator, and that's what I'm doing here. And if this goes down, this means that I want to revert anything. What I'm going to do, I'm going to truncate the table. Okay, I'm just going to truncate all these tables, and it's going to remove all the data in there. So if you don't want that, just get the TGS script and remove that and do the seed in the way you want to. And the last table we have is the queue email. Well, because when we authenticate or create a user into our system, I want to send an email to the user with a token. The person will validate the token, and when the person validates the token that this person will receive into the email, and then she will be a valid person inside our our system. And I did that because I want to work with workers in our API. I just don't want to create an API. I want to create an automated worker that runs into the background doing things for us, and we will understand all of this in the next sessions. Okay, so this is kind of the structure that I have. Again, if you have any doubt, you want to talk to me, just hit me on Discord, send any questions you have there. You can, if you are live, just send the questions you have in the chat, and we can chat about it. And now you say, how do I run that? How do I make that run? So what I'm going to do that in the API assemble process. Okay, so when you start your API, we are going to do all these bash scripts. If you have any doubt about it, just check in the last session that we have. So basically, it's the errors, copying volumes, installing dependencies, running lint. And now the next thing that we are going to have here, it's this one. So let me just copy here. All right, and there we go. Every time I do Docker Compose app, it's going to run the migration. Okay, it's going to run the migration for me. So I'm just going to put it here. Okay, how do we do that? It next migrate latest. This means that run everything that you didn't run before, and using this file as a file and as a ECMAScript module. Okay, because all the system I'm working, it's working with modules, as I told you before, and I need to say that to next. This is the way you do that. Okay. All right. Let's just do down, and let's do the compose app and hope that everything works. There we go. Running migrations, and it's not working. Let's see what happens. Connection refused. Why? Okay. I forgot to put it into the. I've created a. Sudo.
The proxy.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's the proxy.
Nice.
Hosts. I need to put the database into the hosts, because I have here. There you go. I just have the API, and I've created the database here. .0.0.1. So it's gonna be like pg local.tgs.com. I just need to check if it's this one. pg local.tgs.com seems to be good. And let's try to do that again. Maybe it's not. It's refusing again. So the API is trying to connect to the database through this into this. Okay, seems fine. No, the host is not good. db host. Docker compose local.
I think this should be trying to connect in the pg.local.tgs.com, right?
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah. And it's
not
not
localhost.
Yeah.
Not the.
Of course. See, we forgot to put the environment variables for the API. So the API does not know who the big host is. So when it does not know, it tries to connect to itself. So what we need to do, we need to get all this information, okay, and put it into the Docker Compose local file. So we are going to do it here, but it's not, of course, it's not that. We need to do, we need to do that, okay, and we are going to remove it all. We're going to do that, copy it all. We're going to do that, and Control V. Whew, magical. I like to do. I really like to do that into VS Code. It's like magic. Control C, Control V, and Control D, and everything is working. Now I've set the environment variables for the API. Okay, this means that this file that's trying to access these environment variables will work, and this is what was missing. Let's just copy it and paste it into here, and let's just do some spaces. Let's try it again and see if it works. Clean everything, start it all over again, and there we go. It's working. See, running migrations using environment development. I've run one batch with 9 different migrations. It's exactly what I have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it ran all these 9 migrations. Let me just get the beaver. Let's open it. The beaver, it's a well, I use that to access the databases. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the beaver. I'm just going to create a new connection to the backend, and I'm going to click here into the Postgres, next, and then it's not going to be localhost. It's going to be pg local.pgs.com. The database, it's not this one. What's the database that I did? There we go. The database is the God stack, of course. The database is off. It's the God stack. The username is Postgres, and the password 123456778. Let's test the connection. There you go. It's connected. If you're doing that in your machine for the first time, it's gonna say, hey, I need to download the drivers. I've already downloaded the drivers, so this is the reason that just tried to connect. But you need to download the drivers first. The beaver is gonna help you through all this process. You don't need to worry about that. I'm just going to finish it. So there we go. I've got the God stack. If I open it, schemas, public, tables, and where's my tables? What? I'm in the right place? No, it's not this one. Yeah, it's just public tables. What? Think a little bit. Did it run? Yeah, it did. It's everything here. Where are my tables? What?
Strange.
It's really strange. Where's my tables? Let me check something. DB name. No, it's the DB name. It's the right one. Have it created into the instead of the? You didn't. Let me check something. This one. What? Why it did that? It's created in the root Postgres database. Well, all the tables are here, but that it's not what I was expecting.
Check if the
Why it's created into?
database environment name, it's the same in the Kinect file.
Good. Let's check for that. No, it's not this one. Oh, it's here. Let's check the database. So it's db name, db user, db pass. And if we go to the environment variable, db name, db user, db pass. This is really strange, isn't it? It's well, just
But it Kinect file, look the file.
the next file.
Yes.
Yeah.
He don't. I don't. I
Yeah.
think he.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. It's not db database. It's db name. You are right. Let's do that. db name. As I passed a new value to the database,
It takes the default.
yeah, it's fallback to the default database. For Postgres, the default database, it's Postgres itself. So there we go. It was a so host name user pass. Let's check again. Host name user pass, and let's check again in the compose. Host name user pass. I believe that everything is connected now. Let's just I will remove the database because I don't want some garbage information there. Okay, I'm just going to remove it because I know that some point I will forget, and when we will fall back to the database I will see the data there. It's not well. Just remove and start everything from the scratch. Okay, of course, rf. And there we go. The clean Docker Compose app. Let's do all over again. Let's see if the database it's up, the API it's up, the migrations run, the server is up. Everything automated. It's beautiful. And again, let's just edit the connection. Let's just go back to the God stack, the God stack. Let's check this. It's working. It's okay. Yes. And okay, now it's database information, public table. Ta-da! Everything is working. Good. Cheers, people. Nice. Okay. So let's just check all the information that I've got here. Okay. So users. When my system starts, I have 2 users already set in my system. The first one, it's the system user, okay, and the second one, it's migration. Why do I have a system user? I have a system user because, for example, who's the one that creates a user into the system? For the point of view of an audit, if I'm trying to audit my tables, the one that creates the user, it's not the user itself, it's the system itself. So I need to have a system user that represents the system itself from a point of view of auditing the data. This means that if you get this ID, let me just get it a little bit bigger. So it's the user ID 000, right? So if you get the person that created the system, it's itself, and the person the user that created the migration, it's the system. Did you get it? Did you understand the idea?
Yes, got it.
So this is for audit purpose, and this is gonna happens a lot now that we have stronger laws against people sharing data around. So you really need to take care of these kind of things. Okay. So there you go. We have all the additions. The token tables, there is nothing. In the whole tables, I have a system administrator as a whole. I have the back office admin. It's like an editor and a regular user. Okay. As a permissions, this is the role permissions. As a permissions, I have permission to create a user, to read a user, to update a user, and to delete a user. Okay, it's the CRUD. As you can see, it's actually CRUD. It's CRUD in there. So you have all these permissions, and the only user that has the whole permission, the create and everything. It's not just the admin; it's the other one as well. So I have two holes with this. It's the system administration and the back office admin. So both of these users can do everything they want with users. This one will not be allowed.
Another thing, the system user, it will be used also to create something in workers, for example.
Exactly. Man.
Yes.
Perfect. Exactly that. So if we have workers in the background running and create things into the database, getting data from one side to another, it's the system itself that's doing that. And so we will create into the database saying that the system itself did that. Okay. I believe that when we get more into the system, all this will be more clear for everyone. But that's what I did. Okay. Seems good. What we're gonna do now? Okay. So all the database process, it's done. So from now on, the only thing that we need to do is to update the migrations. So we can create another one, to create another table. You just run the command that I did. It's going to create the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And well, all this process are working. What I'm going to do, I have this user, so I'm going to delete the book because I'm not going to work with book anymore, but users we will use. Okay. In order to do that, I need to delete these things, I need to delete these things, I need to delete these things, and there we go. We just have users. And now if you go to the type defs, I'm going to remove these, and I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to remove that, and there we go. Now we have the users. Okay, but when I query a user, when I do the query user, now it's giving me back the users. What I want to do is, instead of giving back an fixed array, I want to connect to the database. And how do we do that? Now there will be a very important concept that we didn't treated before. It's this guy, the context. Okay. When we are working with Graphql, when we are working with Apollo server, when we initiate a Apollo server, we can pass a context to every single request that we are going to receive into our HTTP server. Okay, let me just check if we still have the users working. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the api.local.tgs.com. All right, and let's check if the query for users is still there. Users, all right, and then I can get back the ID, email, and password of the person. There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do, it's to try to understand what a context is. When you call the context, if you want to understand the context, think the context as a how can I say, it's the person when you get into a building, it's the first person that gets to you. It's door. Do you remember the name?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe
Translate.
something, maybe someone in the chat, Darman. Melky said Darman.
Yeah, it means doorman, but the doorman it's inside a place, and I forgot the name of the place. The city. There we go. So it's concierge. Exactly. That was the receptionist. Yes, this could be the receptionist. So what happens when you go inside a building and the receptionist, the doorman, gets to you? It will try to understand who you are. Okay? And then will ask you, who are you? You can say two different things for this person. You can say, here is my ID. This is who I am. In Portugal, you're gonna give the NIF to the person. In Brazil, you're gonna give the CPF. So you have a document. You give a document to this doorman, and the doorman will look at you and say, nice. You are somebody that I know. So he will check into the system and see if you are a valid person and say, yes, you are a valid person. This is perfect. Or you can just say, I am nobody. So he's going to say, okay, if you are nobody and you want to go inside, what do you want to do? I want to query for some users. Okay, we can query for some users. I will create an ID for you, an identity inside the building for you. So, and it's not just going to give you back an ID that you can use inside the building. It will give you a bag. And inside this bag, you will have a lot of things that you can use inside of the building. Just think like that, okay? So let's think this like that. So I'm just going to return it here to make it more clear. So instead of that, I have that. So I'm going to say, okay. Let's just do a console log here, so it's not going to save automatically for me. There we go. So I can receive information from the person that I'm going inside my building, okay? And the information that most of the people give, it's these two information. The request, okay? So the request is when the front end calls the back end, this calling, it's the request, okay? And I have the connection. The connection, if I'm using subscribe, so if I am needs to validate a WebSocket between the back end and the front end. So if it's a HTTP request, it's gonna be into the request. If it's a WebSocket connection, it will be into the connection, okay? So let's just see what's inside of here. It's going to be a lot of information. So right now, I don't care about it, okay? So the only thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a bag. This bag is just an object, okay? So I've got this object. Oh, now that I saw Melkydev is here. Welcome to the live, Melkydev, and well, I'm trying to talk about the God stack. Melkydev, it's well, everyone should check the Melkydev tweet. He's a really awesome guy. He's creating something called the codepal.io, and it's a system that will help all the software developers So please, if you're in the chat, just get to the Melky Dev Twitch, and he's really, really awesome and awesome person. And the lives is more funny than the lives that I've got. Yeah. So there we go. This is the website. He's still creating it, and he's getting helping from people. I'm one of them. I'm helping him to do that as well. Not too much as I should. I believe I should help even more. I'm just trying to do that as much as I can. But please just check Melky Dev. You're really going to like it. He's an amazing guy. Well, he's Russian, so Brazilians
I
and
like it.
Russians has some friendship. It's more strong when we know Russians. We as a Brazilians, there's some similarity between us, and well, check Melkidef. You're gonna like it.
I like his keyboard.
Yeah. He has a new keyboard. Yes, it's true. I don't know the name of the keyboard, but it's a separated one. It's very fancy. And guys, I have I I have like 15 years of software development, and yes, this is my keyboard. It's a real, simple one. I know I want to be more fancy for everybody. I believe that just my mouse, it's a little bit different. It's vertical one, but well, everything that I have, it's very simple. I really want to buy a fancy keyboard and and be a very good streamer just like Melky. Well, that's it. Formic VS Code. Yes, the IDS that I'm using is VS Code. I like the WebStorm as well. So if you are trying to choose between one or another, I believe that WebStorm is a good one. I like to do streamings using the VS Code because it's free. So everyone that's in the other side will be able to get this idea. The WebStorm is paid, so I believe that's not everyone that can have that can pay for something. So I'm using the free one. So everything that I'm doing here, everyone that's in the other side can do as well. There's a lot of people from all around the world: Portugal, Brazil, Canada. Actually, Melkidev is Russian, but he lives in Canada, and well, people from all around the world. So also, what's the difference between an IDE and the IDE? I don't know actually. IDE, it's this. It's the application that you use to do your code, and idea it's something that you have in your mind. But I actually don't know the difference. If anyone in the chat knows the difference, please. Do you know, Bruno?
Don't have a clue. What is the difference?
Yeah. And Melkidev uses the NVim. The Melkidev uses NVim. So, man, it's really crazy. He has a really incredible keyboard, and he do that all in the terminal. And he's a very good artificial intelligence developer. And well, I'm actually his fan because he's a really good streamer, handsome guy, intelligent, smart person. So well, check the thing and you understand what I'm saying. Going
Albus
back.
explained it to us.
Sorry.
Albus explained it to us. IntelliJ, he's giving an example. IntelliJ idea is the name, and IDA
is for Java.
for Java.
How long have I
Nice.
worked with Graphql?
Good to know. Thanks, guy. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
man.
I actually didn't get what Albus said actually,
Inte-
the difference between one and another.
uh, the IntelliJ, do you know IntelliJ? It's for
Yeah,
Java.
yeah, I know.
It's the name of the program, the software, right?
Yeah,
IDA, it means that it's for it. What is for? I think. Um,
IDEA,
is
it's
that
an
right, Albert?
now I got it. IntelliJ IDEA, it's an IDE for
Yeah.
Java. Got it. Now I got it. Perfect. Mechabyte asked me, how long have you worked with GraphQL? I've been dabbing myself, but in Java. I'm working with GraphQL for 5 years now. I believe that the first time I've got in contact with that was in 2016, so around 5 years. 5 to 6 or 4. I'm kind of lost in the time right now, but it's that. But he's doing that in Java. Well, as I told before, uh, the God stack is not about the language. It's about the concept. We are trying to talk about the concepts. I'm using JavaScript. Yes, I'm using Node.js and all these things. But what we are trying to get here, it's the concept of the things. So you can get the same concept and maybe using to Java if you want to. Do you have some pros and cons against REST API? Yes, I do. And this is actually a good question. I don't know if I talked about that in the other sessions. I've used GraphQL in these lives and the thing because I want people to change the concept in their minds. So if they are trying to navigate into different waters, they will think differently. Okay, and when we are talking about engineering, you need to think differently. So this is why I've chose GraphQL to be the main thing into these lives. Uh, but one of the things that I like most about GraphQL that I don't get into REST, it's the payload, because when I am into the front end, I can choose the payload I want to, as I've shown any times in the other sessions. You can do a lot of things that it is impossible to do. It's not exactly impossible, but it's heavier to do into REST. And I believe that you are more free with your information. You give more freedom to the front end, to the mobile person that's developing, anyone that's getting in touch to your API. They are more free to get the data in the exact way they want to. And that's not just about a complete request, just like if I'm just getting user from the backend. I want to get the user and the name of the user. I want it into uppercase. So I can do that into GraphQL, just creating some points into my API, and that will be available. So we are living in a world that everything is connected. You need to connect to a payment process, you need to connect to email process and all of that, and you need to abstract all this information into your database, into your data model. And then you need to give access to some person that's trying to get information from your API to access all these and change that. So I believe that GraphQL gives me, or gave me, and will give me more of that. Gave me in the past, in this past 5 years, and will give me more of that in the following years. This freedom to work with the data that I want. Would this freedom come at a sacrifice of business logic? Many APIs cater dates, then run some sort of rules. Is a responsibility now the front end? It's actually not, and this is what this API it's about. I'm just going to, well, as I've told you in the other sessions, but in this session, I'm stealing some ideas from the domain drive design and trying to put in here. I'm not using the complete domain drive design. I just want to get the layers that I have there and use here. So inside my application, all my business logics will be here. Okay, so um, I'm actually removing all the business logics from the front end. I'm not giving it more there. I'm just giving the power to the front end to choose what kind of data it wants and what kind of data it wants to update, or what kind of data it wants to receive back. So it's actually the opposite. I'm actually getting all the business logic and focusing on the API, and this is what I'm actually trying to do here, and just give the freedom to the front end to choose what it wants. So you can create, you can be more free to do that. One of the good examples, and one of the things that happens a lot when I'm working with GraphQL, for example, users. So when I get the users table, of course we are not going to do tables anymore in 2021, but just in order to explain a little bit, imagine that you have a table in the front end. You have a table from the users, and you want to get this information from the backend. If you do that in REST, it's going to give you back all the users' information, everything, okay? But the information that you're going to display, it's just some columns. For example, I'm just going to display the username and the picture, okay? So when I fetch the information in the backend, it's going to give me the user, the address, that everything. So it's going to be a heavy payload in the backend to get all this information. But the information that's going to be displayed is going to be like two information. So why don't I just ask to the backend, give me user, but when you give me user, I just wanted these two different information. And then I'm going to display here. I'm going to make the backend have a more light payload. So it's not going to fetch all the database, fetching all the information. It's just going to fetch one, and I'm just going to give it back to my user. If I want to do that in REST, I will need to have two different endpoints to do that. So it's simple user and complete user. I don't know, I'm just saying words here, but you will need different endpoints to do that. With GraphQL, I just say, hey, I want user, but user, I want this and that and that, and that's it. So when I go, for example, I try to edit a user, I will click in the user, and then I will fetch again the information from the user in the same GraphQL that I have, but now I say I want everything. So it's going to go inside the database and give me all the data that I have, but this time it's going to get all the data, but just for one user and not from all the users in the database. So again, I have all the information for the user, but it's just one, so the payload's gonna be it's gonna be light as well. So what DB interface do you use in Node? I've seen GraphPair well with JPA in Java. I'm using Query Builder. This is what all this stream was about. And I'm using Postgres. I don't know if that answers your question, but this is what I've tried to do here. I'm using again Query Builder because I like the freedom that Query Builder gives you. And if you are working in a company that this company it's big enough to have a database administrator, he will produce very good queries, and you can just give him the infrastructure folder and say, hey, database administrator, just enter in my API, just look at the infrastructure folders, and inside of that you will see all the queries. So it's a simple query, just written as a query in the database with some small explanation. He will be able to do that and make the queries better. Because what we're going to do, we're going to do the queries just like a full stack do that, and not in the beautiful way that a database administration could think about that and do that. This is the reason I've choose the query builder instead, using ORM or ORM, because I think that the ORMs, they are more intrusive and they make you do things that you don't, maybe you don't want to. For somebody that is starting in the life into the software development, maybe it can help to do the things, but when you get more professional, and that what we were trying to do here. I'm here with Bruno, trying to explain everything from him. But what we are going to do here, we are trying to make the software developers that it's in the other side more professionals. This is the reason that we are using Docker. We are talking about the migration process. How do we work with DDD, domain drive design? How do we separate all the layers? So we are talking about a complete engineering to create a software for a client. And this client can be a startup without money that's just trying to create software right now. It can be a very big company that has access to Amazon with a lot of service and all. So the software and engineering needs to be flexible enough to create all these environments. And this is our challenge to do that. And we already did the Docker Compose. We already did the API. We talked about the domain drive design and how we separate all the layers and all of that. I'm trying to do my best here and trying to do my best for Bruno in order that he could learn a little bit. He's teaching me things as well. People in the chat, Alba's already teaching me a lot of things. So this is an exchange of things. I've been working for 15 years in the software development, but this means nothing. Every day I learn different things, and I'm trying to get to the God stack. It's not the language, it's not the engineering. The God stack is the person. So that's what I'm trying to do here, and it's really nice that you liked the stream, Mecca, and every Thursdays and Thursdays we'll be here developing software, and I believe that that's it. Bruno, do you want to say anything?
Yes, and again, it's not about the God stack is not about the GraphQL or what we are doing, but we are trying to make something to be good to the business and good to mainly to the developer. So so I think you in the next sections you will see more of that.
Yeah.
You like it.
Yeah. So thank you for the following MacBite. It's Formic, Evandrix. Welcome all to the streaming, and let's just finish the context idea. So you get to a building, and there's the doorman there, and the doorman it's this context. So now the doorman gets your ID and gives you a different ID and say you can go inside the building and try to do whatever you want. And with this, he gives me a bag with a lot of information in there, okay? So let's just check how kind of this works. So this object, it's the bag that I'm going to use to every request that's made to the backend. So this bag has the user, and you can put here anything that you want. So I'm just going to do the test, and just going to create a test string here. This means that every function I have inside my my API will be able to access this object. Okay, let's try this. For example, I have this query. Okay, as I told you before, there are 4 things here. The first one, it's the parent. Okay, and then you have the params, and then you have the context. Okay, let's call it CTX. And instead of doing that, let's do this, return users. I'm still going to return the user, but I'm just going to console log the context. Okay, so I'm into a function inside my query. So this is the function responsible when I do the query in the front end. This is the function that will be executed in order to answer to the user, to the person that requested that. So here's the context, and here it is my my terminal. Okay, and I'm going to save it, and I'm going to do this again. Okay, and let's check what's doing here. Actually, I have the console log here. So the first console log is this one. So I have the request and the connection. The connection is undefined because we are not with the WebSocket active. Okay, so but the request is here. So I have the body of the request, the length, symbols. It's a lot of information when you do a request for the backend. It's a lot of, so you have everything here. Okay. The second thing that I want to show you is this one. As you can see into the context of every function that I have inside my Apollo server, I have exactly the same object that I'm returning into the context. This seems to be how can I say, simple, but this context idea, when we are working in a functional way, it's very powerful, because anything that I put here, everyone has access. This means that I can create tests more easily, because I just mock the context and I can call every function I have, mocking the context, and I can do the unit tests into my queries easily, really easy. And then you say, so what do I put into the bag? Okay, so what's the good things to put into the bag? Well, the first thing that we are going to do, so API, source, interfaces, we have the interface here. We're going to create another folder. Let's create this folder. It's called shared. Okay. What's the shared folder? It's a folder with a lot of utils functions. These functions will be will enable my system to do whatever it wants. One of the things that we can do in the shared, it's the database. So I want to connect into the database. So let's create a folder here called database. Okay, and let's create a file here. My database, it's a Postgres, so I'm just going to call it Postgres JS. Okay, and inside of these, I will do that. I will call next. That's the query builder that I'm using, and I will instantiate the next using the next lib. I'm going to instantiate the next for my application. Okay, and I will use another library. Okay, I don't like to use a lot of libraries, but this one, it's a good one, and I will explain in a moment what does it do. Again, if we want to install anything, we are not going to just come here and do yarn add next nest. What I'm going to do, docker execute, it's gonna be the terminal, and it's gonna be available for me, and inside the container we're gonna do the yarn add and then the next nest. There you go. Inside the container, the next nest, and it's gonna run in a moment. Again, as I have volumes connected into the Docker Compose file, I have volumes connecting everything outside the container and inside the container. If I install something inside, it's going to reflect outside it. Here it is, my next nest, it's there, okay? What does the next nest does? When you fetch for some information into the database, for example, I have user, okay? And then the user has an ID and a name, okay? So I have the user 01, it's gonna be Breno, and the 02 is gonna be Bruno, all right? And then I have, for example, address. And then you have an ID and a street, okay? ID is gonna be 01, and street's gonna be ABC, and then you have another address with CDF, okay? If you do a join into these data, okay, and I need, let's create a third one. It's gonna be okay. So and now I have a table in the middle that's its user address, okay, and then you have the user ID and the address ID, okay. So I'm gonna say that Breno has the address 1 and Breno has the address 2 and Bruno has the address 3, okay. If I do a join between all these tables, it will produce different lines for me. So it's gonna do the line 1, Breno, and then the ID of the address 1, and then it's gonna call ABC, and then it's gonna repeat it for me, 1, Breno, so the address is gonna be the second one, and CDF, and then we have the last line that's gonna be 2, Bruno, it's gonna be the address 03 and HJK, okay. So this is not the answer I want to the front end. The answer I want to the front end, it's a JSON, and this JSON I want to be just like that, an array, okay. And then into these I have an ID that's gonna be 01, and then the name that's gonna be Breno, and then what I want is an address, and inside this address I want an array, and then it has an ID 01, and it's gonna be name, I don't remember the number, let's call it name ABC. Well, you got the idea. I want this, and then here it's gonna be the second address that I want to. So I want to have a library.
It's going to compress your address into one array, right?
Exactly. It's going to compress this line into the JSON expression. So it's going to change this to this. So this is what the next nest does. When you pass a query to the next nest, it's going to rebuild it into a JSON for me. So this is the library I use to do that. Most of the time we are going to use the chains to do that for us. So we are not going to use the We are not going to use this strategy. But at some point in our system, it will be needed to do that. Okay, so we will get to that. Okay. So now into the shared, I'm going to create a index.js file. Okay. Here we go, and then I will import these next and next.js. Okay, and I will have an object here, export const shared, and this will be an object. Yeah, I'm going to call it database, and then I will put the next and next nest here. That's beautiful. So I have these. What's this file? Yeah, this is the first one. Okay, so now in the interface, let's just import it. So import something from, let's get that. There you go, share it, and then index.js. Okay, and then there you go, share it, and what I'm going, what I want to do into this return is to do that, spread the shared in here. What I'm doing here, I've created a shared folder with the database, and now I'm spreading the shared into my context. This means now that when I try to fetch anything into the front end, okay, the function that it's responsible to work with the context, now I have all the next and next into there. This means that I can do into my where's my schema, user, application, query, there you go, user. So I can do something like that, ctx.database.next, and then this is going to, I can execute things from the database perspective into all the functions that's responsible to answer for all the queries or mutations or subscriptions that I have. And at the same time, I have a shared. So right now we just have the HTTP interface, but in the future we will have the workers interface that will use exactly the same shared. So if the HTTP interface is connected to a database, the worker will be connected to exactly the same database. So if the HTTP can validate some data, the worker will be able to validate exactly the same way, exactly the same data that we have. So this is the reason that we are creating the shared folder. Okay, and this is how this one I'm not going to save, don't save. So, and this is how we this one we're going to save as well, don't save, close all, there we go. So this is how we are going to access the context. So it's the third parameter in every function that we have. So the first one's the parent. In this case, the user, it's the first thing in my domain, so don't have the parent, but the chains will have that. We talk about the chains in the first session. The parameters of my request, it's what's inside the domain. We will talk about that in the future again. We already did that in the first and second session. And now we have a third parameter, that's the context. This one is a really, really, really important one. I will talk about it all the time. Okay. So what we're gonna do in the next section, because this is we always do 2 hours because I work as a software developer. Bruno do that too. So we are already going to 12 hours doing software development. So this is the reason we just do 2 hours. In the next session, we will make the next get information from the database and put information in the database. So we will actually create the query, we will actually create the mutation and all of that. So we will handle the user, okay? And in the next session, we will connect to the mail service, we will create workers, we will talk about how to do microservicing and all that in the API. And we will talk about React as well. We will do all the React from the scratch. Everything that you're seeing here, people that are just getting now, all the files that we have here, we did one by one, line by line. There is no files here that we didn't write. Inside the Node modules, of course, inside the module, we didn't write that because the dependency library. But everything that you can see, I'm just like Simba right now. Everything that the sun touches, it's our kingdom. And this is what I'm doing here. Everything that your IDE touch, it's your kingdom as a God stack. So you know everything that's here. Every single code, every single line from every single file we've created. There is no library creating for us. So if you lost these, just check the other videos. I'm not a professional Twitch streamer, so my videos will just be available for 14 days and then will just disappear in a void. I think that I will download it and try to put it into YouTube, but I think that lives is more comfy. You can come here, ask me questions. You can go to the Discord that Bruno just sent it into the channel, and you can ask me anything. Hit me on Discord, ask me things if you have any doubt about it. I can do my best to help anyone that wants to, but I believe that's it. Do you have anything to say? Did you like it today, Bruno? How was that?
Yes, it was very good. And the next section, we are going to make that work, that database work. Will be very good.
Yeah,
I hope everyone is enjoying that sections that we are making.
yeah. Guys, I'm going to send you to one streamer that I have a lot of respect for this guy. He's a really good he's a really good DevOps, but he's not just a DevOps. He's a really respected engineer. All right, his name is Mastermind. I believe that some of you guys maybe know this guy, but I really have some mad respect for him. So please just go there and watch his a really good one. Okay, and well, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for being there until now. For some people in Brazil, it's till 8, but for people from Europe, it's almost more than midnight. It's a quarter from midnight. So thank you very much for everything. I will see you in the next Tuesday. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we will be here, and we will share our knowledge and well, do our best. Thank you very much for everything. See you in the next one. See you, Bruno. Thank you, Bruno,
Guys,
for being here.
see you guys, see you, Breno.